Well, hello everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Al. I'm back after, I would say, about 4 weeks. I really wanted to celebrate the 1 year anniversary of the Divine Lux Soul Podcast and let it marinate. So thanks to all of you for tuning into that very fun episode I had with Jock, my friend up there in Sacramento. But more importantly, guys, I just had so much fun with the episode, and I had a lot going on in my life. The reason why it took me a while to be creative today, and today I felt the creative juices as I woke up this morning. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I didn't have the inspiration for this episode. I wrote it out about 2 weeks ago, and I don't know, the inspiration just wasn't there. And then I had an experience last night, and then this morning I woke up with the creative fire, the creative juices in me. And while I was at the gym this morning, I was actually imagining myself talking about everything we're about to talk about today. But that being said, everyone, welcome back to the Divine Lux Soul Podcast. This will be episode number 25, and I titled it, I went through a few titles. I titled it A Return to Eden. And without giving away too much of the episode, I want to tell everyone as you're listening to this episode today, the journey of Ani is really detailing how a soul returns back to the Garden of Eden. And if you guys haven't heard about this yet, the Garden of Eden didn't exist on this planet. It existed in consciousness. It existed in God's consciousness. And what this book is telling us is that once we actualize that Eden is within us, Eden is within our consciousness or inner dweller remembers Eden. It wants to return there. And in this lifetime, do we have the opportunity in these human vessels to evolve our souls so we can return back to that Eden that we came from? But like I said, guys, this is an offering of knowledge. This is an offering to expand your mind into thinking of another way that we evolve as beings on this planet. As I always say in this podcast, guys, we are not this physical body. This physical body is a tool to help us evolve in this physical form. So when we do drop this physical identity, this physical costume, this physical suit, this physical clothing, can we evolve back to Eden? So that's where the inspiration of the episode came from. I was reading another book, and once I read The Garden of Eden, I was just like, oh my God, I can title it this. And that's where the inspiration really came from. was when I read another passage in a book. Did the inspiration come back to me? And I'm like, okay, we got to talk about it. So, what is the Garden of Eden, guys? The Garden of Eden is really, like I said, a consciousness to where you are dwelling by eternal daylight. Meaning, you guys remember the story Adam and Eve in the Bible, or the Christian Bible? It talks about how Adam was first walking around the garden with God, talking to the animals, talking to God. There was never any nighttime. And when I was putting this episode together, I was just like, this is exactly what the Egyptian hieroglyphs and in the scroll of Ani was detailing of what man actually does, is that we are returning back to eternal daylight, meaning that we evolve ourselves so high that we can dwell with the gods or dwell with God consciousness, our creator, for the rest of our eternity, if we choose to do that. Now, it's always the dweller's choice to come back to earth, or it can stay in the eternal realm. But again, guys, this is a journey about evolving your soul higher and higher and higher into those different realms so you can be shimmering light for the rest of your eternity, rest of your days. And I always mention, guys, you can always decide to do something different. But this is what this story is really about. So, that being said, everyone, I wanted to start episode 25, A Return to Eden, with a quote from the Emerald Tablets. And it says, "A man is a star, bound to a body until the end." And like I said, that came from Hermes Trismegistus or Thoth. And if you guys want to look it up, it came from the Emerald Tablets. It will be chapter 3, titled The Keys of Wisdom, on page 126. So what is that saying, guys? Thoth is teaching us that we are a star, meaning we are a burning light fire dwelling inside this human body. And we are bound to this human body. Now, once that human body or human vessel, we leave it, we choose to leave it. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys that too. When we choose to leave this human vessel and we shoot out of it, this physical flesh and bones is just no longer animating. You are somewhere else vibrating higher. And this is what this quote is teaching us, is that when we drop this physical vessel, our light fire goes back to where it came from, and now it can shine brighter and bigger into the next existence. So I want you guys to think about the physical death is not a bad thing. It's actually uh, a temporary existence, a temporary vessel for us to live in. But we live most of our lives, or live most of our existence in the astral. This is a very short time to be on this planet, so I encourage all of you guys to use it well, use it wisely, because when you drop this physical body, there's no telling when you're going to come back to this planet, when you're going to have another opportunity to be human. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But that is what that is saying, guys. A man is a star bound to a body until the end. Until the end of this physical body drops away. This is the end of the Egyptian series, everyone. I'm just going to recap. If you guys, some of you might be just tuning into what's happening today. This is a third installment of the Egyptian series. If you missed the previous 2 episodes, I will skim right past it because it's going to be, we have a lot to talk about in this third episode. So the first part of the Egyptian series was the heart versus the feather, where I talked about how the Ba, or heart consciousness, is the one that drives us creates us in this physical world. And then it also emits frequencies to the spiritual astral dimensions. It is your footprint for God and the other gods to keep track of your progress here on this physical realm. And the mind does help too, guys, but it's mainly the heart that is the one emitting out the frequencies. And what I was telling everyone in that episode is, when you have a light, Christ consciousness heart upon death, you can balance out the scales in the Hala Ma'at during your grand trial, and you can pass into the other realms or higher dimensions. But if you have bad karmic actions in your lifetime, you weigh the heart down, and upon death, you might have to come back to this earth realm to fix it, learn about something new, or you get kicked down into a lower dimension where you have to live it out until you are able to come back into a human body. That was, and then we also learned about karma. Karma is an action. So once again, guys, that's another teaching from the Indian Vedic philosophies is karma is an action. It can be a good karmic action or a not so good or negative karmic action. And again, it's always up to the individual consciousness to decide how they're going to proceed with the action that they're about to take. And this is where the Christ consciousness, Buddha consciousness, Krishna consciousness comes into play, is when you have your heart fixed on Christ, karmic, good action, do you start living peacefully and balanced existence? That was part one. Part two, coming forth by day. That was talking all about how the Egyptian physical history. I talked about how Egypt was first established by Thoth the Atlantean. He taught the existing men and women in the Egyptian Nile Delta his knowledge from Atlantis. But once they learned, and uh, he taught them how to have a civilization, did they start building and becoming the masters of the world to where they dominated uh, their region of Africa down into Nubia, down to Sudan, depending on the New Kingdom. They went up into what's it called, the Middle East. So Egypt took off during that age of, let's say, enlightenment. And we talked about how the Europeans mistitled the Scroll of Ani, which is the Book of the Dead. It's actually mistitled. It should be changed to Spells Coming Forth by Day. That is his original name for it. We learn how the scroll and inscriptions began with just the pharaoh, and then it became used with spiritualists or people who worked for the pharaoh. It turned into governors were using it, and then the royal family in the New Kingdom and other rich people in the kingdom were able to buy this scroll, have the what's it called, priest write it out for them in their image, and they can be given these scrolls upon death so they can live into the afterlife. And then we also talked about the grand trial, which was what we were building up to for the very long time, was this grand trial. And what did we learn that grand trial? We learned that your Ba, your Ka, your heart consciousness, and your soul consciousness is there to witness this. Anubis is the one um, holding the crystal, the tongue of truth. And we also have the deceased physical body looking at Anubis, telling him, "May no lies be spoken against me," in the presence of God. The trial starts, everything gets weighed out. Thoth is there standing there, recording the whole thing. Once everything goes down, Thoth signs it off. Everyone in the universe knows that Ani, or you, the deceased, has a light heart, and now you're able to progress into Duat. And this is where we start scroll number 8. So if you guys haven't checked out the other two episodes, go back and check it out, because this is going to make sense today, because we only got through 7 scrolls, but today we are going into scroll number 8. And this is why I broke up this Egyptian episode, is because it was too much for me to talk about. Well, I could have talked for 6 hours. That's fine. I like to talk, but members don't like that. The membership doesn't like that. So I'm going to try to keep this. That's why I broke up the episode. So go back, guys, watch episodes 1 and 2, Heart versus Feather, Coming Forth by Day, and then this will make more sense to you guys if you take the opportunity. And I also want to say this to you guys before we get started. I know a lot of people subscribe to different schools of religion, beliefs, no beliefs at all. But I want to tell you guys this. And I saw this on Willy Wonka. I'm going to talk about that in my next episode. I'm going to break that movie down. It's actually kind of fun. What do I want to say before we start? It says you should never, never doubt what nobody is sure about. And that came from Willy Wonka. What does that mean, guys? Never doubt any information that you come across. because no one is sure if Ani existed. No one is sure if Thoth existed. No one has been back to say God exists, Christ exists, whatever is going on with all these religions. And if you're just wholeheartedly being skeptical about what I'm talking about, you're never going to evolve your minds. You're never going to evolve your own selves to spark the curiosity to find out on your own if what the Egyptians and what I'm telling you guys today was correct or not. So I want to tell you guys that too is like, don't ever doubt any of this information is not for you. Listen to it, give it a go. Sometimes things just talk to you, sometimes things just resonate. And hopefully today, going through Ani's journey in Duat, the underworld, the netherworld, can it spark and give you guys another perspective outside of the Christian faith, outside of the Hebrew faith, outside of the Catholic faith, outside of Hinduism, outside of whatever you guys are believing out there. There's so much light information that you can mingle into your own beliefs, or you can just get rid of them altogether. So hopefully this episode is the one that teach you guys that don't ever doubt any information. Check it out for yourself. But I'm pretty confident that the Egyptians got it right. 5,000 years ago, that's how old these inscriptions are. Actually, they go back further because Atlantis was existing way before Egypt or Kemet was ever even a thought. So that being said, guys, we're going to start with scroll number 8, which is the soul's beginning venture into Duat. And like I said, just right now, Duat in Egyptian is the underworld. Think about that, or the netherworld, meaning not this physical world that we see. Duat is everything that the astral body or the Ka experiences when it's not in this body. So that is all the underworld. And I will start with a quote from, I believe it is still from the Emerald Tablets. It says, "Know thou art the greatest light, perfect in thine own sphere. When thou art free, look not ever in the darkness. Man is a darkness. Lift up thine eyes, your third eye, the space above," meaning your chakra. If you guys have ever seen this in Egyptian um, what's it called? Hieroglyphs, there's always like a spear on top of their heads or like a cone. That is really just a picture frame of what's really hovering above us, above our heads. We just can't see it. But the Egyptians found a way in etched in stone that there is the Ka, or the consciousness on top of you. That is your crown chakra. And this is how you communicate with the astral world. That's something a lot of these mystics don't talk about out here. But during my discoveries, I realized that that's what that was about. Those cones that you see, and like I said, the spear on top of their heads, that is for them to speak to the astral. But if you're never aware that you have that on top of your head, following you everywhere, you're never going to understand your true power, your true light. That is what Thoth was telling the humans is when we put our focus and attention onto the third eye, it communicates to that space above. I mean, scooch down. That space above, and then that space above takes you into the astral. That's the fifth element. That came out of me. That was not in my show notes. But that is how I understood what the fifth element was about. And it also says this to you guys, free thine light flame upward, meaning shine your light upward. Do not try to dim your light to fit in for these people. Do not dim your light to be a part of a group or the in crowd in life. When you guys diminish your own light fire and you start conforming to other people to fit in, let's just say that, you're not expanding yourself. You're dimming your own light. And then when you get to the edge of existence, where you're about to cross into that rainbow frequency, it's too late for you to go back now because now your body, now your own consciousness is ready to leave. So hopefully that is explaining this, guys, of how not to dim your light. Let it shine bright. If you're the outcast at work or in social settings, let it be. If you're the black sheep of the family, let it be. Because guess what, guys? You're living authenticity. But when you're living a fake identity, do you diminish your own light? And then you're not invited to the higher realms. I'm gonna say that too. That wasn't my show notes. You're not invited to the higher realms if you never live your true authentic self while you have this human vessel. You just have to wait who knows how many centuries to come back here, and the planet even may not be the way you left it. It may be some other, who knows what is going to happen. But guys, this is the special time that you chose to be here. So do not waste it dimming your light, being small, being this tiny little fraction of yourself. Try not to be that 10% of your brain that they taught us to be. Our brain power is way more than that, guys. And it's not just fluff and junk up there. It is a functioning organ. It is a breathable, everyday organ. So if you guys change your thoughts, change your mindset, new neural connections start forming in your mind, and you can start living this expansive energy that you are. And this is what Thoth was teaching the Egyptians a long time ago. And it also says, "Shalt thou be a child of light?" Like I just said, guys, once you realize you're a child of light, you're a child of fire, you're an eternal, you're bigger than a flame. Let's say you're a bonfire. When you actualize that, guys, you will stop dimming yourself to fit in with your family. You'll stop dimming yourself to fit in with your friends, so-called friends. You'll stop dimming yourself to be with a husband or a wife, a boyfriend or girlfriend. Um, you'll stop dimming yourselves to fit in at work. You'll stop dimming yourselves to be socially, sexually available to people. You know, you look like what the trend is. Guys, this is all dimming your own light. If you never take the opportunity in your lifetime to take advantage of this supreme vessel, I'm going to get to why I called it that supreme vessel in just a bit. But let's continue with the scroll, which is our adventure in Duat. So let's get to plate number 4. Plate number 4 begins shortly after Ani has passed his, we could say, life exam, his life review, or his grand trial in Ma'at. This is the picture I've been showing you guys for a while. So as you can see, hopefully I can explain to you guys. Ani. Ani is now, this is all inscription. So Ani is talking to Horus. Horus is the bird god here. And he is exalting Horus, saying he's the Lord of Eternity. And then there's some other inscriptions that Ani must say. And I'm explaining this picture too, guys. Anytime there's an inscription in Egyptian text, that is normally a boundary or a divider in Egyptian hieroglyphs. That's something I learned during these episodes. So not only does Ani have to read this stuff, but Horus, as you can see, he is saying a lot here because he must break the spell so they can go into see Osiris, Isis, and her other sister behind that. So if you guys are looking at all this, Ani, then once Horus does break the spell, we see Ani giving, what's it called? Gratitude to the god, to Osiris, and then we also have other foods and meats and sweets for the god. So that is where this is going. And I'm also going to say this, guys. This is actually, forgot to tell you guys, I was going off memory. Can't believe that. This is actually a hallway. I forgot to tell you guys that. So this is a hallway separating the Hall of Ma'at with the supreme divine of Osiris or Osiris, where he's sitting. And it says, plate number 4, the first step in this is Ani is found just and is led into the presence of Osiris. So that's what I was just showing you guys. And then, if you guys ever don't know about Egyptian history, Osiris is the Lord of Eternity, which you guys just saw. He is the one enthroned right here. And he is holding the crook and the frail of Egypt, signifying his divinity. And then he is also wearing the double crown, the white crown, and then the green crown of Egypt. Well, I should take that back. He's wearing the white crown of Egypt on his head, signifying his sovereignty and dominion um, over Egypt, or the men of Egypt, men and women of Egypt. And let's see, page 24. This is the inscription where Horus, the great lord, breaks the spell for Ani. Once Horus breaks the spell, we saw him kneeling and raising his hands in adoration. And I will read a little bit of what Horus actually says to Osiris to break the spell. It says, "Saith Horus, son of Isis, I have come unto thee. I have brought Osiris Ani," which talked before, guys. This is where they give his divinities. When you hear him say Osiris Ani, that is talking about Ani, but he's now spiritually divine. His heart is found righteous, coming forth from balance, meaning the trial, and hath not sinned against the gods or goddesses. Thoth has weighed his heart according to decree, uttered unto him by the company of the gods, meaning that everybody was witness, like I said, guys, to the trial in episode number 2. And his heart is very true and righteous. And this is where he says, "Grant him cakes and ale, and let him enter the presence of Osiris, that he may be like unto the followers of Horus forever." Meaning, Ani is given the fruits and cakes of the gods, meaning that he can dwell on the manna. You guys have heard of it before. That's in the Christian text and Judean text too. This is all just knowledge. The gods really don't eat, but they were trying to signify that this is the manna that they are presented with. And Horus is telling Osiris and his sisters that now that he has been shown to be true and righteous, now he can eat what the gods are eating. And heaven, let's just say, is opening up for Ani. So this is why Horus is taking Ani by the hand, so he can tell Osiris, the lord of the underworld, or Duat, that this person is true. Thoth even recorded it. If you want to go fact check with Thoth, go talk to him. He has it all written out. Bringing that into layman terms. So that's what that's about, guys. And then it also says, "Behold, Osiris Ani saith." So this is Ani speaking, "Lord of Amenet, the underworld. I am in thy presence." So he's saying, I'm in your presence. And he also goes to tell Osiris, "There is no sin in me. I have not lied wittingly, nor have I done aught with a false heart." Meaning, during his lifetime, there wasn't any sin in him when his physical body passed away. And he did not lie consciously, meaning in his lifetime, he didn't lie to people. He was an honest soul during his existence in this physical world. And he says, "Nor have I aught with a false heart," meaning he didn't live a fake identity. And that goes back to the beginning of this episode when I talked about, if you guys don't live in your true, authentic selves, you do not get to pass into these higher realms as Ani did. So if you guys are living a true heart conscious life, you're living as your true authentic self, your true authentic fire, do you get let into these higher realms and you get to meet God and any other evolved soul out there in the astral realm? And he also says, "Grant that I may." Ani is asking to be granted to be favored by Osiris and the gods, so he can be adored and loved by the gods as well. And like I said, this royal inscription from Thoth is already throughout the halls of Amenti. Let's just go ahead and say that. And everyone knows that Ani now is true, heart, loved existence while he was present on earth, but now he's getting rewarded. Again, this is heaven, guys. He's getting rewarded for those gifts that he did on this planet while he was alive. Or I say this: heaven can be a consciousness. Let's say that again. Don't ever doubt what we don't know about. probably exists in some consciousness somewhere, or maybe in some dimension somewhere. But once again, guys, I want you to expand your minds that everything is consciousness, everything is an energy. So that is scroll number 4. And then let's go to scroll number 6, 5, and 6. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but I'm going to do the best I can to show it to you guys. So you guys can see it. Right here is the red inscription, just like I said in the Bible, guys. When there is red ink, that means people are talking, and Ani is talking. And then the rest of the black ink is the narrative, let me use my words today, scripting that Ani must read or breaking a spell. So what is this showing, guys? Let me show this up here. This is showing the procession to the tomb. Let me show it here. So if you guys look on the right over here, this is where the scribe starts. So you see that there's an entire host of animals, people, priests, Anubis. As you can see, Ani's coffin is actually on a sled. And all of this stuff this procession is playing forth to bring Ani into his resting place. And you see that there's people are wailing, they're in white. They are showing everything that humans do. When people pass away, we like to cut up and cry because we are missing the physical being or the physical presence that we used to love and know. So this is what this plate is all showing. And then we see that over here, the priests are performing the last ritual, which is the opening of the mouth instrument. So if you guys ever watched like Egyptian documentaries, when they finally do unwrap the mummy, most of the time you see the mummy's mouth is open. This is explaining why we find a lot of the mummy's mouths are open, or at least cracked a little bit. And I'll get to the opening of the mouth ceremony, but this is where these wires. This is where the open the mouth ceremony happens. So once the funeral procession is done, the priests come and open Ani's mouth they break apart the bandages and then open his mouth so he can officially talk in the afterlife. And yeah, that's the instrument, open the mouth. And then the tool that they use is called Yurhika. And that is made of a sinuous piece of wood, is in the form of a ram's head, which is surmounted by the uraeus. So this is what the priests are doing before they seal the tomb up. So that's what I wanted to talk about this episode. And like I said, the mummy, you see the mummy is dead. He's laying on the chest, mounted with boat runners. That's what that's called. And let's see what else. That's about it. The Sem priests. I forgot about talking about them. That's their official name. The Sem priests come before the tomb is sealed up, and they go ahead and open the deceased mouth. They say more prayers, they say more inscriptions, and then they close up the tomb eventually. And sinuous, I had to look this up. I did not know the word. It means having many curves and turns. So it's a very curved object. I can't really show it to you guys because it's such subtly done in the script, but you guys do understand that it's a curved piece, and they put it in the mouth and they crack it open, and then now the deceased can talk in the real astral realm. And let's see, yeah, the priests are also performing Ani's last rituals and rites. And like I said, Anubis is standing behind Ani, and yeah, that is that plate number 6. And then I cued myself to read this. But the cue I gave myself was actually a chapter header. Again, remember that red part I showed you guys? Yeah, that is the chapter header. And that chapter header says, Here begin the chapters of coming forth by day, and the songs of praise and glorifying, and the coming forth and going into the glorious Nefertart in the beautiful Amenta, to be said on the day of burial, coming or going in after forth. So, what does that mean? These next upcoming chapters is talking all about Ani coming forth by day and going forth by day, meaning that once he goes through his whole entire journey, he can come and go as he pleases, just like the gods can. So again, guys, this is what this Egyptian knowledge is teaching us is if we evolve ourselves enough, yes, we can come and go as we please, and we can go back to where we came from and wouldn't be a problem. That's what that is talking about. And then let's see what else did I highlight for myself. There was more stuff that I'm not going to talk about because I'll be here all day. But yeah, here begins the coming forth by day chapters. Here we go. It says, Ye who perfected souls to enter into the hall of Osiris, may ye cause the perfected soul of Osiris, the scribe of Ani victorious in the double hall of truth, to enter with you into the house of Osiris. May ye hear as he hear, and may he see as ye see, and may he stand as you stand, and may he sit as you sit. What does that mean? The gods are telling Osiris that once Ani goes through this evolution, can he hear as Osiris hears? Can he see as Osiris sees? Can he stand as Osiris stands? And can he sit as Osiris sits? So meaning there is no distinction anymore between Ani's soul and God's soul. It's one and the same. And this is really coming forth by day. And may just be a perfected soul in the hall of Osiris. So that's exactly what that's pretty much I just summed up. It's just saying in the book. I cannot believe I remembered all this. It's quite interesting that I'm talking about it. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, let's talk about ye who open the way and lay open the path to perfect the souls in the hall of Osiris. Open ye the way and lay open the paths of Osiris, the scribe and steward of all divine offerings, Ani, who was triumphant with you. May he enter with a bold heart. May he come forth in peace from the house of Osiris. May he not be rejected. May he not be turned back. May he enter in as he pleaseth, and may he come forth as he desireth, and may he be victorious. What does that mean, guys? Through Ani's offerings, through Ani's time, giving offerings in the physical world and then now in the astral world, they are saying now that Ani has passed to the house of Osiris, now he can not be turned back, meaning all the gods, because Osiris has signed off on Ani's truth and just, he is telling everyone in the astral realms and telling Ani too, you will not be turned away from any dimension. No God can tell you no. May he enter as I enter anywhere. May he sit anywhere may he stand anywhere I stand. So this is what this scroll is teaching not only the deceased or Ani, but is also teaching the ones who are still alive to know of this knowledge that once we get the approval, let's just say from Osiris or God, the creator, whoever you believe in, once they sign off on your truth and your light, do they tell you you can go anywhere I go? And there really starts the journey of the soul. Once you get the okay that God says you can go wherever I go, you're really unlimited on any dimension. Talk to any higher being that you want to talk to, and you won't be turned away. That's what that's talking about. It also goes on to say on page 29 is this next chapter is setting us up for the chapter of giving a mouth to Osiris Ani, meaning the gods are going to give Ani an official, let's say, spiritual mouth to speak with. The priests have already opened up his physical mouth before they sealed up the tomb. But now the gods are reflecting. Remember again, guys, so within, so without. The gods are reflecting what happened on planet Earth, and now they're going to give Scribe Ani his mouth in the spiritual world. And the scribe and the teller of holy offerings of all the gods. So they're saying that Ani is being transformed into the scribe or Thoth, and he's also being transformed into the holy offerings of the gods. So once again, guys, Ani is evolving already, and this is what the script is talking about. And then Ani also goes on to say, may my mouth be given unto me, that I may speak with it before the great God, the Lord of the underworld. May my hand and my arm not be forced back by the holy ministries of God. I am Osiris, the Lord of the mouth of the tomb, and Osiris, the victorious Scribe Ani, hath the portion with him who is upon the top of the steps. According to the desire of the heart, I have come from the pool of fire, I have quenched it. Meaning, he is paying homage to his brightness and the great house, and may he dwelleth in the night and the thick darkness, and may I have come unto thee. So, what is this saying, guys? This is saying that Ani wants to be given a mouth. He wants to be given a tool to speak with before the great gods and all the great gods of the underworld. He's also saying, may my hand not be forced back by the holy ministries of any god. Meaning, he's already saying, do not turn me away in the ministry of God, meaning that there is unlimited light everywhere, and Ani is being chosen to dwell amongst the gods. And I think that's all I want to say about that. And again, guys, the desire of the heart, Ani's heart is still light, and he's able to go into the higher realm. Yeah, so this is another one. Let me get to this one. Page 30. May I speak before the great God? This is another chapter header that is going on. So you see, there's a lot of red here, guys. A ton of red, meaning that Ani has been given a mouth so he can speak. And what is this one saying? Yeah, we were talking about the underworld. Okay, so in this chapter, we were seeing the writing upon Ani's coffin. Oh, yeah, that's right. So this is explaining more of what is happening here. So the bread and ale and meat shall be given to Osiris or Scribe Ani upon the altar of Osiris. May he enter the fields of Aru, meaning Garden of Eden, in peace to learn bidding of him who dwelleth in Thatu. And there shall be wheat, barley be given to him, and shall he flourish as he did upon earth, and he shall do whatever so he pleaseth, even as the gods who are in the underworld for everlasting millions of ages without end. So, again, guys, this is all signifying that once Ani or us get the okay to dwell amongst the gods, do we get all of these different blessings coming in? And this is really signifying. So, as you can see, the funeral procession starts. We see pallbearers and we see other people giving offerings. We see the ladies dressed in white. We also see animals given to Ani and the priests. There's actually another, who is that? Is another priest or Ani, I believe. And then we see other priests here, again, opening Ani's mouth. As you can see, it's a full burial. Yeah, as you can see, this is the full burial of meats and ales as they were talking about. We see another woman in front of Ani's coffin, which is right here. We see Anubis here right behind Ani. He's the one that's going to guide him to the trial eventually. And then this is Ani's tomb. So can't remember any of this, but I did. This is what that scroll is explaining to the readers. So again, guys, this is insane coming out of me, but I can look at the Egyptian hieroglyphs now and I know what's going on. There's no more guesswork. I'm like, like I said, it's no longer just pretty pictures and symbols anymore and hieroglyphs. I know exactly what it's talking about. Plate number 6. That's what that is describing. This is also where may he find everlasting life among the gods in ease, love, and perfected form, which, like I said, guys, it's a return to Eden. That's exactly what they're explaining. Let's get to a really good plate number 9. Aha, plate number 9. Let's talk about plate number 9. So let me show it to you guys. As you can see, this is all the Egyptian main gods sitting up here on their boat. And then we see Ani and we see Horus in their Ka form. So as you saw, guys, in the beginning of this episode, or beginning of this adventure, Horus was half man, half bird, meaning this was his ba, or his divine bar that goes back and forth between the spiritual world and the physical world. Now we're seeing the two of them in their spiritual form, which is here. Again, I can't remember that, but that's what that's signifying. And they're both wearing their crowns. So that is off to the far right. And these are the 7 shining ones. Got to say that too. Yeah, these are the shining ones that Thoth and every other Egyptian was talking about when we pass away. If you guys never read the Emerald Tablets before, Thoth talks about meeting the 7 shining ones who were from ancient Atlantis, the ones who taught man all of this. He was a witness to these gods. And I wanted to add that in there too, guys. And yeah, this is where I remember. This is the soul of Ra, and this is the soul of Osiris. I'm shocked that I remembered this. And there's some other inscriptions that Ani must read, but we're not going to read that because, like I said, I don't want to keep you guys all day. This is just a highlight. So I wanted to start scroll 9 with the mansions. What do I mean by that? This is actually coming from the Christian Bible. And it says, let's unlock scroll number 9, the mansions. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you so. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, ye may be also. And now I have to you before it came to pass that when it is come to pass, ye might believe. That came from the book of John. What does that mean? When we are in Christ consciousness our whole entire lives, and we pass into these higher realms, that passage about the mansions is literally, I know in our physical minds, we think of these great houses, right? That is the human part of ourselves. But in the astral world, a mansion is a metaphor, and it's a metaphor for a dimension. That is what God is preparing for us when we're on this planet. Is if we are living these heart conscious lives, He's preparing a dimension for us to live, or He's preparing many dimensions. Because, like I said, God is abundant and wealthy already, and He likes to share what He has with His children. So He's already preparing these mansions for us that we may dwell with him as well. That is what this this is what that's saying, guys, or at least how I interpreted what this scripture was saying. It's in his father's house, but she's talking about not your physical father, guys. He's talking about your spiritual father. And the spiritual father has no name. I'm gonna tell you guys that too. It's a consciousness, but we came from that consciousness, but the consciousness wants us to dwell with it our whole entire lives. And like I said, he's preparing mansions for us. All right, everyone, plates number 11 and 12. This is where Ani enters 7 Arits. And Arit in ancient Egyptian is a mansion. And the reason why, and that's the reason why I wanted to highlight this one is because I found it eerily similar to the Christian text that, like I said before, guys, how I learned about God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, or Osiris, Ra, and Isis coming to Egyptian talk language. Again, guys, do not get too tied up in these names because it's all consciousness. It's all the same Trinity. So this is why I wanted to highlight this, guys, because Ani is here wife Tutu is back. And this is Ani's script. She's got to say, these are the blockages or the hull that a column he has to dissolve. And then he's able to pass into this mansion. And as you guys can see, he has different gods to talk to. And then once he says their names and who he is, then he's able to pass into the next mansion. You see there's more gods. And then he goes to the next one, this mansion, that mansion, this one, this one, this one, this one. Every single mansion or Ari, or let's say dimension, has different gods protecting it. And Ani must say different spells, which I'm not going to get into. You guys can read the book yourself. But he must pass through all of these different dimensions or different Arits or mansions. And it says, let me get to the real script of what it says. That was me just remembering. Again, guys, I'm really surprised talking about this today that I remembered all this stuff. Not stuff, remembered all of this knowledge. It says the deceased passes through 7 Arits or mansions through which deceased is supposed to pass. These are all just dimensions, pylons, and gateways. So let me show it one more time so it makes sense for you guys. So the top, you see that there's mansions and dimensions. And in the lower part, you guys actually see pylons. Now, a pylon in Egypt, let me show it to the camera, is normally like in front of Egyptian temples, but here in the astral world, they did the same thing, as above, so below. This is a pylon, and here we have the ibis-looking god here guarding the gate, and Ani must talk to him too. So that is what plate 11 is talking about. And it's a portal, it's a gateway, and again, let me use better terms for this. Every pylon, every mansion, Arit, has a protector in front of it, and Ani must talk to them. And so, a few of the mansions that Ani must go through, I'm not going to go through all of them, but the first gate, let's just say that. Okay, this is the first gateway, the first Arit. And as you guys can see, the woman behind him is Ani's wife, Tutu. And the first one that they approach is a gateway of power, life, and stability. And at the entrance sit 3 gods, a hare or a rabbit, a serpent, and a crocodile, which is all, again, metaphors in spiritual worlds. The hare is quick, right? They hop around. We have the snake. The snakes are seen as shedders because, they shed the old and come into the new. And the crocodile, very powerful with its jaws. So there is a lot of interpretation here that I'm not going to get into today. That was just a snippet of what it talks about. But yeah, that is the first one. And let's get to another one. The second Arit, the second mansion. See, the second mansion or Arit is this pylon right here. And what that pylon is guarded by 3 gods. It's a lion this time, a head of a man, and then a dog. Oh yeah, this is where Thoth and Ma'at come into play again. He's telling these gods, Thoth and Ma'at, both signed off on his trial, and he's making offerings to pass this way. So I forgot to mention that too, guys. Ani must pass through all of these pylons, and so he may enter into Eden. So this is the adventure of Duat. I forgot to tell you guys that. This is the real adventure of Duat. He must pass through these different Arits so he can pass into greatness. That's exactly what he's doing. And he's asking the gods at every single pylon, grant thou that I may pass that I may be given sight of Ra together with those who make the offering. So at this gate, he's telling the gods, may I have the sight of Ra, which is very expansive, by the way. Let's see. The next ones, the Ani greets more gods, he asked for permission. And I think that's all I wanted to share about this one. So again, guys, arites are mansions in Egyptian hieroglyphs or portals, dimensions, pylons, whatever we want to give to it to make it make sense to all of us. That is what an arite is. And we will continue on. Actually, so Ani goes on to meet all of the gods. Actually, I got to the right one. I found it. I just flipped past it. So Ani approaches a ton of gods, and I'm going to show you guys this. So on this page, as you can see, there's different gods at different portals again. Let me show it up there. There's a ton of gods here sitting here waiting for him to pass through. And then on this other side, we have more gods. And then what's more important about this pylon, guys, is this is the pylon of Ma'at. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. But anytime you see the feather followed by serpents, that is normally signifying Ma'at's presence. And yeah, just a list of gods. I'm not going to get through all of them. And Ani must greet them all. I'm going to tell you guys that. So that is what plate 13 is talking about. I may just read one. It just pretty much says, may Ani Scribe be triumphant in peace. This is the last one that he passes through. And may he find the rising joy in Tenu, which is, again, the Garden of Eden. Plate number 15. I'll use your words. All right, so this is a lot going on, guys. I'm going to try to show it. Again, the red language is what Ani has to say. So we have over here, you get it right. Ani is there with his sarcophagus. He's in half human, half bird form, which means he's one step in the physical world, one step into the astral realm. We have the Sem priest with the Sanu to open Ani's mouth. And then we have Anubis here again with offerings. And then we also see, you guys can't see this one. Maybe you can see. There is Ani, his Ba consciousness with his bird consciousness standing there. And then eventually goes into him offering offerings and going into the spiritual world. So why am I showing this, guys? This is the opening of the mouth ceremony and what happens on the other side once the ceremony subsides. And we're going to start with, let me see my notes. This is why I make notes, because now I can see why I'm here. Again, yeah, the Sem priest, got that right. And you can see the Sem priest because he's wearing like this green color. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but this is the green color. What that signifies there. Mighty One of Enchantment. So this is the instrument that, again, is giving the enchantments to Anis to open up his mouth. And let's just go ahead and read it. I've been delaying it enough. This is the chapter of opening the mouth of Osiris Ani or Scribe Ani. And it says, may Ptah open my mouth, and may the god of my town loose thy swathings, even the swathings that are over my mouth. So what is that saying? He's telling Ptah, another god, to take off the swathings. If you guys remember in a lot, especially with Jesus, he had swaddlings on his body that were gone. This is signifying the same thing as a mummy. May he take off all that stuff from his mouth and open it or uncover it. And moreover, it says, may Thoth be filled and furnished with charms, come loose, the bandages of set, which are fettered from the mouth. may the Sem priest remove all those coverings, all those charms that were on there before, remove all that stuff because you don't need it anymore. And may by forth the gods bring about this new um, existence for the deceased. Let's see what else that says. Page. Thank God I make notes. So the second picture I showed you guys with Ani and Anubis. Ani is clothed in white with his heart in hand. This is why I wanted to show this. This, I think my camera can pick it up today. Come into focus, come into focus. Maybe not. All right. Yeah, there, finally came into focus. Or let's try this one. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. But the second picture, and this is where the Egyptians found it was very significant to separate out the organs from the body, not only to preserve it in the physical world, but the deceased takes it along through his journeys through Duat or the underworld. Because Ani, most prized possession is his light heart. So that's how he's really able to get through these different dimensions. Because when the gods feel his vibration from his heart on this planet, he is able to evolve and tell them that I was light of heart. So that's another part building in on this journey today is the deceased will often carry their light or their heart consciousness with them through a lot of these dimensions and adventures into the underworld. This chapter is also a giving of heart. Ani says, which is in red, may my heart be with me in the house of hearts. And in the house of hearts, that means the hall of Osiris, or the heart where he was being weighed. May my heart be with me and may it rest in me, merge with him so I won't have to carry it too much longer. So we have Ani clothed in white with his heart in his right hand addressing Anubis. That is what this gateway is explaining. Chapter, this next page on page 74, Ani is asking for a voice and his mouth, and he's requesting all his senses come back. And he's talking to top. It says, may my mouth be given unto me that I may speak with it. May and my 2 feet to it walk with all, and my 2 hands and arms overthrow a foe. So in case he has to go through any battles, let's just say that, that's the foe. And then he also has 2 arms and 2 hands to engage with them. And may he have feet and may he speak as well. And that is what he is talking about. It says in the house of Ka, of Ta, I know my own heart. So he's also saying to the gods, I know my own Ka and I know my own heart. I have gotten the mastery over my heart. I have gotten the mastery of my 2 arms and hands, and I have gotten the mastery over my feet. And I have gained the power to do whatsoever my Ka pleases. So this is saying that once Ani's mouth is open, he can talk, he has arms, hands, and feet again. He has mastery over his heart. Now he can pass and do as his Ka pleases. So he's being granted all these gifts so he can continue on with his Ka's existence. And may his soul shall not be shut off from my body at the gates of the underworld. But I shall enter in peace and I shall come forth in peace. Meaning, he shall not be turned away, but he shall enter in peace and he shall come forth in peace as well. That is what that is saying. All right, let's talk about this. As I showed before, guys, Ani is standing there with his human-headed bird, which is... This chapter is about not letting the soul of a man be taken away from him in the underworld. Meaning, Ani does a lot more of adventurous things, but we're not going to talk about that. Let's see, plates 2026. I didn't put this in here, but in the episode, but these are all the gods on display, if you guys can see it. And why is this important? This is a chapter of going unto the godlike rulers of Osiris. It says, "May my soul hath built for me a dwelling place in Datu." Again, that's Eden. This is where Ani starts to evolve himself into the higher realms of the Shining Ones. And he's asking to eat and dine and adorn and be worshipped with them for eternity. He also goes on to say, as you can see, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, this is Ani sitting in front of Anubis. And it says, "I am a shining one clothed in power, mightier than any other shining one." Ani is speaking himself into a godlike shining one. He's understanding his power. He's understanding his true divinity, that this is what he's always been. And now he's stepping into his power. So that's what that was talking about. And then I'm actually right on schedule. Exactly what, wow. I am shocked by myself. I thought I was talking ahead of the show, but I'm right on point. So we're going to continue on with plates 25 and 26. And the reason why I want to talk about plate 25 and 26 is because on Ani's adventure, after he's been with Horus or Ra, no, he's been with Ra, he's talked with Osiris, he's talked with Isis, he's speaking with Thoth, he's speaking with Ma'at, he's talked about his opening the mouth, he's asked for eyes, hands, feet, nose, back. He's now in full power. He's now a shining one. And before he can become a full transformed into the shinier realms, he must morph into other beings. Let me just read the chapter header. So there's a written, this is, let me just show it. This is plate number 25. This is a swallow. This is also the inscription of Ani. And I'm going to say this to you guys. This is the what I just showed you guys in hieroglyphs. That's Ani. So in this next couple of chapters, it says, "Here begin the chapters of making transformations, the changing into a swallow." So this is another what we do. I just saw a friend of mine. She talked about her mother passing yesterday on social media, and she was saying how after her mom transitioned, she was sitting out in the sunlight or the sunset, and then she said this bird just came out of nowhere and just started chatting, 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 and chirping. Let's just say that that's the way they chat. And she was like, it wouldn't be quiet, just wouldn't stop. And I told her that, you know, this is what evolved souls do. They go through their underworld experience and they start transforming themselves into the higher realms. So a lot of time we will come back as different birds. Now here, this one is signifying that Ani is a swallow, but we can come back as a blue jay, a red bird, a hummingbird. So those of you guys who think that you're crazy when you tell people that a loved one came back as a bird, I'm here to tell you guys this. Guys, this isn't hieroglyphics. It's not make believe. There's a reason why there's a place where this was incepted, guys. This idea that we can transform ourselves and come back to our loved ones as a live being if we choose it. Now, again, guys, this is talking about Ani's adventure, which is our adventure as well. So, those of you who will listen to this today, guys, if you do have loved ones and you hear birds chirping a lot, they're probably visiting you. Just gonna tell you guys that now. And you're not crazy. I'm telling you guys that now. No one is crazy for this, guys. If you have a bird that's super close to you, because birds are very skittish, but you might get one or two birds that do fly close to you and hovers there, or maybe they're in a plant or a tree next door to you. That's more than likely one of your loved ones coming back in a different form to talk to you, or just to feel your presence. And let me read what this says. I know I talked a lot. Yeah, he's making transformations. I am the swallow, but may the guardian of the bright lead me on. Stretch out upon to divine bands, that I may be able to pass my days in the island of flame. Is spreading out his wings, and he is being guided by this great flame, by this great light. I'm glad I make show notes. Ani also turns into a golden hawk. If you guys can see in the middle, he turned into a golden hawk. I'll just tell you guys what's going on here. Ani starts off as a swallow, as we just talked about. He morphs into a golden hawk eventually, and then he turns into a green hawk. We're going to talk all about those in a little bit. Swallow, he is telling himself that he is the daughter of Ra. May thou flame draw him on the horizon and spread his wings out wide. Meant to tell you guys that. And then let's move on to the golden hawk, what that signifies. So the chapter of the golden hawk, it says, may I enter into the presence of Ra daily to hear his words, and may I sit amongst the mighty gods of Nut. If you guys know that Nut is one of the greater gods. So what is this saying, guys? Him changing into a golden hawk, he is evolving himself into the presence of Ra. So he may hear his words to sit amongst the mighty ones. So again, guys, this is more of him in a metamorphosis, in a more evolutionary state of being. And then the green hawk. Let's get to the last one. This is turning into the sacred hawk, what it says, grant that I may come forth, and that I may get the power over my legs, and that I may be like upon his throne. May I be set up upon my resting place like the Lord of life. May I be joined unto Isis, the divine lady. May the gods make me strong against him, and do no harm unto me. And may no one come see me fall helpless. So, and I'll continue on. It also says, I am one of the shining ones who live in the rays of light. So Ani had to transform into a swallow, a golden hawk, and then a green hawk, so he can evolve himself to live as a different being. But all of these different hawks and swallows is actually Ani, a metaphor for what we normally do. Not only in our physical life, guys, but this is also in our what's it called? Spiritual lives. We do come back as different beings. And in this Egyptian text, Ani came back as those three animals. So he can evolve himself, so he may dwell amongst the gods. And it's a metaphor for past lives, pretty much. If you guys aren't aware of it yet, time in the astral world happens all at once. Things are simultaneously happening. So you may come back as a swallow. You may come back as a golden hawk. You may come back as a green hawk. You may come back, like I said, as a hummingbird. This signifies that, this vessel that we're in, this human body, is the supreme being to help us evolve ourselves. Yeah, that's about it. No, let's cut that up too. Yeah, he's just asking to be one of the shining ones who lives in the rays of light, but he must become these different animals in order for him to evolve. Yeah, this is giving him the pathway. Let's say that this chapters are giving him the pathway to come forth by day. Is giving him the wings to finally take flight. This is actually him becoming powerful, like the powerful ones, that they fly back and forth by day. Let's move on to plate number 27, as I wrote in my show notes. Ani goes through a lot of other things before we wrap things up. We're almost there. I'm going to show the picture so it makes sense. There we are. As you can see, guys, we have snakes, we have a crocodile, we have Ta, we have a ram, we have a Bennu bird. And we're going to talk about what all this means. Why are they showing these animals? We're going to continue on why. We see the serpent with human legs. As I said before in the beginning of this episode, snakes are often seen as the renewers, right? Because snakes And we do the same thing too. I'm gonna tell you guys that. They shed their skin and then they come out fresh and new. And this is what this is signifying, that now that Ani has turned himself into a bird, now he's turning himself into a snake. And it says, the serpent, I am the serpent of Seta, which is dwelleth in the limits of the earth. I lie down, I am born, I renew myself, I grow young by the day. So that's what he is telling or turning himself into, and he's talking to Horus. I'm going to tell you guys that. And I have opened and passed the underworld. I have opened the paths of the waters, yeah, of the heavens and the waters of the earth. I have not been driven back by them, and I have been lifted. I have lifted up thy face, O Lord of eternity. And so this is where the serpent of Seta comes into play. So this is the chapter header, guys, that he's speaking to Horus again. And then he's talking about changing into the snake, that he may be reborn and renew himself. And then the crocodile that is there. Let me show you, that's lying on the pylon right over here. And the pylon is a dimension. I am the sacred crocodile, and I cause destruction. So, he's turning himself into a god, meaning not only do we create, but we also can destruct. And him turning into this crocodile, going into this pylon or doorway, is him gaining the knowledge that he's a destroyer as well as a creator. This is creation. There's light and dark. Chapter of changing into Ta. This is an interesting one. Uh, Pretty much making offerings to the shrine of Ta, which is right there. Then that's when he says, I eat bread, I drink ale. So he's telling Ta that I'm doing everything that you've done so I can understand you as a god, and I can understand myself as one too. Yeah, let's talk with the ram. As you guys know, a ram is a very powerful animal. And he says, I am Ra, who cometh forth from Nu, the divine soul, the creator of his own limbs. Sin is an abomination unto me. I will never die in the name of my soul. He says, I am the Lord of light. I am in their forms, and I have come into being in the likeness of Ra. I am the Lord of light. So what does that all mean, guys? He has turned himself into the Lord of light, or he's understanding what the Lord of light is. The Bennu bird, yeah. This is the bird right here. And then we're going to read what it says. Ani goes through, changing himself different forms of incarnations and plants. So this is why I wanted to pick up this rubric, is because it's very important. This is a chapter of changing into a Bennu bird. It says, Ani Scribe, or Ani Triumphant, I came into being from unformed matter. I created myself in the image of the god of Khepera. I grew in the form of plants. I am hidden in the likeness of a tortoise. I am formed out of the atoms of all gods. He is just really saying that through this transformation, he realizes his true divinity on how many different lifetimes that he's gone through. He's been this plant. He's been an atom. He's been all these different things in his illuminated life. Let's just say that. And the one I wanted to read, the rubric says, the purified one shall come forth by day after his burial, and he shall change in forms of his heart desire. What does that mean? Now that Ani has been purified, he can change into anything his heart desires. This is where incarnations of other plants and animals comes into play, because without him transforming into different animals and plants and actualizing that he is a part of everything that is in existence, can he start evolving higher and higher? That souls often do come, like I said, as animals. A family member is coming back to you as an animal or plant. These objects do find their way to us in different ways, but if we're not open to it, guys, we'll never understand why certain birds follow us or why certain plants come to us. So be mindful of that, guys, or be aware of that when you are living. A lot of your family members or loved ones, let's say that, are coming back in different forms, evolving themselves. And he changes plate 28. He changes into a Haran. As we see, this is the Haran that we talked about. This is him as a lotus flower, and then he actually evolves himself into the shiny one. So you guys can see the Aten or Ra is on top of his head now, and now Ani has turned himself into a shiny one that can come forth by day. So let's continue on. Let's see, we're almost to the end, everyone. Actually, we are at the end of it. Let's see, plate 31, plate 32. Yeah, this is an interesting one. I see why I pulled it out. Plate 31, plate 32. There is a lot of red, only because Ani must speak to 42 gods, and we're not we're not going through 42 gods. That's too much. But what these plates talk about is the hall of double right and truth, wherein Ani addresses, like I said, for the next couple of plates, 42 gods who were seated in the middle of the hall of Ma'at. And I will show you what we're talking about. This is the hall. This is where all the gods are dwelling. As we can see, the feather is Ma'at. The middle part is Horus. And then you see Ma'at herself holding this court. Let's just say that. And then all the red inscriptions that you guys saw is where Ani has to talk to all of the 42 gods. Every single inscription you guys see here is a different doorway. So he must go through. So again, guys, Ani is going through a lot on the other side. As everyone else is missing him, he's actually evolving himself and meeting all these other shining beings. And yeah, that's Ma'at on the roof. And then she, like I said, her and Horus are here to hold everyone in place. She is the emblematic of right and truth. I also meant to say this too, guys. The Hall of Double Right and Truth, as I wrote in my show notes, it reads like the biblical like kings or uh, yeah, I think that's a chapter I'm thinking of, Kings. The 42 gods. Because like I said, he has to address all of them. And it's just, list after list after list after list of different gods that he must come in contact with. So again, guys, this is a similar variation to the Christian text of where all this came from, in my opinion. Don't doubt it. I'll say that. And yeah, let's continue on. And which brings me down to he goes through a confession. It's Ani's purity declaration to the gods that he just met. So let's just break it all down. Ani has come into the double hall of truth and light of Ma'at. Horus is still there shining his light. Ma'at is there, the arms stretched out, and all the different gods are sitting at their doorways. Ani reads their names, and then they let him in, and then he goes to the next one, next one, and next one. And after he addresses everyone, he finally comes to navigate to the confession, meaning it to me the next part of this chapter reads like the commandments because he's giving and telling the gods everything that he has not done while he was on the other side of the physical world. And he's telling them now, after I met all of you, this is what I have not done. And he goes into say all the sins he never committed while he was on earth. And he says, I have done no murder. I have not committed fornication. I have not caused shedding of tears. Right, who cometh forth from the city of right and truth. I have not been an eavesdropper. That was kind of interesting. That eavesdropping was um, a sin to them. And then he continues more with more of what he has not done. I have not stirred up strife. I have not spoken scornfully. I have never cursed God. I have never stolen. I have never defrauded the offering of the gods. I have not plundered the offerings to the blessed dead. So, what is this all saying, guys? Why am I highlighting this? It's because to introduce this plate is it reads something out of the commandments of the biblical Bible. He is doing and saying that he has not harmed anyone. He has not spoken ill against anyone. Any offering that he gave to the gods while he was present on earth, uh, he didn't. He wasn't forced to do it. He wanted to do it, and he gave what's it called? Honest adoration for his gifts. Like he didn't rescind his gift later or plunder it later. He didn't do any of that stuff to get it back. He gave it to the gods 100%. And he's never cursed God. And that's another thing that's pretty similar in all biblical texts. And he hasn't stolen. That was a big one for me. Again, this is all can weigh on the heart. And yeah, that is what he talks about. That's what he talks about not doing. And he tells all the gods what he hasn't done in his life, and he tells them by decree, meaning he can go forth because he has not done any of these things while he was on this planet. And then another thing that was really interesting that I wanted to pull out was the lake of fire. And in the lake of fire, he has different things that we talk about. Let me just show it to you guys. So this is the lake of fire. These are the different dogs or the hounds of life, as both talked about in the emerald tablets. I'm not going to talk about that today because that's a different subject, but they're in different corners. Well, actually, let me talk about it. The hounds of life often move in corners. The hounds of life can be seen as demonic creatures because they do slither in angles. Let's just say that. And when you can overcome the angles and you live a cyclical life, even in the afterlife, you move in a cyclical manner, can you elude these creatures? And this is what this next rubric was talking about. But I'm not going to read all of it because this can be confusing. You guys don't know what's going on or are not aware of Egyptian history and what they believed in. As we see, we have Ani's heart. Wanted to point to that. It's still in that jar right down here. And so he says, I am the Benu, the soul of Ra, the guide of the gods into the underworld. The souls come forth upon the earth to do will of their cause, and the soul of Osiris cometh forth to do will of his cause. So what is this saying, guys? It's telling the living who are still here. Put that up there again. There we go. No, well, it'll fix itself eventually. It's telling the readers, or it's telling the living, um, the souls come upon the earth to do the will of their cause. So, what is that saying, guys? You and I, yeah, it's showing all of this. You and I have a reason to be here. We're not here um, I mean, yes, this is a pleasure planet, as they say, but we're not here to enjoy the human, um, what's it called? Um, Trappings our whole entire life, like going to parties, um, consuming alcohol, having sex with everybody, consuming more food than you can take, getting ourselves distracted with these bodies, meaning we're so obsessed with looking at our bodies that we don't ever look within to see what is animating that body. We get busy with marriages and friends and other parties and events and all this religions, all this other stuff that we get trapped with is the low hanging fruit, as we talked about in the heart versus the feather episode. This is telling everyone, I'm going to say it again, guys, the souls come forth upon the earth to do the will of their cause, meaning your Ka or your eternal spirit is coming to this earth to do the will. There is a will, there is an intention, the reason why you came back, why you're here. Now, during an incarnation, one must rise above the vessel, rise above the five senses, that there's more to me than just this body. And once you realize there's more to me than just this body, do you start to find the answers of why you are here, why you're incarnated into that identity, or why you don these clothes. And one must actualize why they're here. Now, some beings come on this planet and they have a true awareness of why they're here. Others, like myself, took a while, or yeah, it took a while for me to understand why I'm here. I'm still learning it, but I have a gist of why my soul is here. But again, guys, this particular chapter is talking about why we come down here and we come forth to do the will of our Ka. So, if you guys have heard that before, you are not in control. It's really your Ka, it's really your inner essence. And when you guys ignore your inner essence and it doesn't, or you're not giving it or yourself the green light to evolve and live his will out that came to do, or the mission, then it's going to want to leave, change clothes, and find another identity that will. So, again, guys, I wanted to tell you guys that again. We make conscious choices to leave our bodies. It's not a pure accident. We even devise how we're going to die. I'm going to say that too, guys. So, again, this is telling us that we are here to live as our Ka wants to. I think I said enough about that. I think you guys, hopefully, you guys got it. That it's time to wake up and get outside these bodies. Yes, I'm going to say this to you guys. This is not my show notes. It's fine to be physically active. You have to circulate blood in the body to keep it youthful and active, whether that be yoga, stretching, biking, cardio kickboxing, dancing, surfing, rollerboarding, roller skating, lifting, resistance training. Whatever we do, that is totally fine. What can mislead people is when you do start taking care of the body and when you do start eating right, does it look very attractive? Does it look very sexy? And this is where the darkness of man can lead a Ka down the wrong road if you let it, to where you're getting all the attention, you're getting all this, your body looks great, and you're getting all the hottest people who want to have, let's say, procreate with you. It misleads the soul and it misleads the Ka. And we only get focused on that thing. But what I'm trying to say with this, guys, is take care of it. It's fine. But do not get trapped in the physicalness of your body. It's here to do more than just what I just talked about. So if you guys are not vibrating higher and higher and higher, and you're constantly keeping your solar plex energy stuck in your reproductive organs and your stomach, you will never have that energy travel up to the space above, to where you can actually project, to where you can start having vivid dreams and figuring out why you're here. So, seven chakra wheels of Indian philosophies, and then coming into the Egyptian alchemic philosophies, does all this start making sense that we must release energy up, we must release energy down. Once again, guys, not to get off the subject, but live as the will of your Ka on earth. Once you drop this physical vessel, once your Ka feels It has learned everything it can, it leaves it, and it goes into these astral realms and it starts evolving higher and higher and higher. Or, like I always say, guys, it can stay stagnant, come back here again, or go into another dimension, as we talked about in episode 2. Okay, this is page 144. It says, here begins the chapters of Seket, Heptet and these chapters are coming forth by day and going into and of coming out from the underworld and the arriving in Seket Anru and the beginning in peace in the beginning of the great city wherein the fresh breeze lies. That sound eerily similar to Eden. This is why I brought that in there. And it also goes on to say, let me have power there in the fresh breeze, meaning the garden. Let me become strong to plow there, meaning to still work. Let me reap there. Let me enjoy my hard work. Let me eat there. Let me drink there. Let me do all these things there as I did upon the earth. And I wrote interesting next to that paragraph is because when I was reading this, I was just like, this really does sound like the description of the Garden of Eden. The reason why I titled this episode that, it harked back in my memory of what I read in the Bible a long time ago. But it was still came to the forefront of my mind. I'm like, this is it. This is Eden. This is what the Egyptians were talking about. They call it the field of peace as the Eden that they talked about. And he goes on to talk to some other gods and goddesses. Yep, that's all I wanted to say about that. This is plate number 35. And let me show you guys this garden that we keep talking about. This is the fields of peace that they've been talking about. There it is. Can't even focus finally. So, as you can see, this is God. I mean, this is the gods. Ani on the boat himself. He's changed himself into the green hawk. And I mean, it just pretty much reiterates the journey he's been through. And then now you see him in all white. He's performing everything that he did and better that he did on Earth, that he did with in eternity, as above, so below. And then you see the different animals. Um, everything is represented here. And then at the bottom, we see this different riverway. What I wanted to highlight about this one is, in this garden, all of the dangers of the planet Earth, such as killer insects, let's say snakes that can bite you, different predators that can cut you or harm your physical body, all of those things are not there in this field of peace or the Garden of Eden. And the fields of peace are surrounded and intersecting two streams, as I just showed you guys. There's Thoth there, and he's holding a pen and palette. And he introduces Ani, who is making an offering to his ka. And there's three gods behind him, the hare, the serpent, and the bull, respectively, again. And then he's among the company of the gods. That's what this top part is talking about. And then Ani is making offerings on the boat, as I just described to you guys. Again, I can't believe I remembered all knowledge. Ani's on the boat, but a boat really is another metaphor for him transitioning into this greater dimension now. Again, guys, like I said in episode 2, the second installment coming forth by day of this Egyptian series, a lot of the metaphors are in not only Egyptian texts, but they're also in Christian texts, Judean texts, Vedic texts. I'm trying to see what else. Other Chinese, Confucius texts. There's so many different metaphors because our ancient ancestors were trying to physically tell us what these things are. But I realized this year, and I've been doing this since I was a boy, once we actualize that these are all just metaphoric images, do we start to interpret the word a little differently? We start to say, well, the boat really is myself moving to another dimension. I'm not actually sailing on a boat. I'm just passing into another dimension. So I think I confessed that to you guys when I finally started to infuse myself into Ani did I start to really read the book and understand what it meant. And even when I read the Bible now, it's a different mental capacity up there to where I could say this is just a metaphor. But what is this really talking about? And prospectively, coming back into the Egyptian Book of the Dead, this is just a boat signifying that Ani is moving into a new world. He's still offering, um, what's it called? Offerings to the gods. We see the hawk or him before the pylon, which is another portal. The second one we see Ani reaping. All like I said, he's working. He's let's see that you can see that that is corn, and he is doing performing all the actions that he did on this planet. That is a number two, and we there's some interpretations, but in the book is saying the food is of the shining ones. But as we know in a lot of Egyptian hieroglyphs, is the the deceased never stop moving, not like they just sit around and do nothing all day. This is just signifying that we do things in our afterlife. Now, again, no one knows this to be true. Could we be doing some field work in the Garden of Eden? We don't know. Could we be sitting around with God all day? Not really sure. Are we singing praises and hymns all day? No one's come back to talk about it. But again, guys, this is what I mean by never ever doubt what no one is sure about. Although this Egyptian hieroglyphs are telling us these things, we're still not really sure about it, right, guys? But it can give us a metaphoric journey of the soul if we just look at it not as a physical human, but we start to look at the material as a light being. Do we start to interpret these are all just metaphors for what we are experiencing on the other side and different dimensions and different portals and meeting all the different gods? That's about it. Yeah, that is it. Ani continues his boat journey and he just evolves. That's what I'm reaching for. Ani does perform these different actions, but as we go down into the bottom levels of this portal, this dimension, do we start seeing him diminish his effort? And then towards here, we see him sail off into a different boat dimension, and then he moves over here. Ani is his cause introduced to the gods, the three gods. And plate number 36. It's 35, 36. This is the dwelling of the Ka. Yeah, plate 35 just pretty much brings more offerings. As you see, there's more inscriptions, which means there's more pylons and mansions that Ani must go to. And then we also see in this picture, for some reason, Tutu is back, but there's Ani giving more of his hard work in the spiritual world to the gods. Last page, guys, and then we're almost done with Ani's journey. Then, O ye who gives cakes and the ale to the shining ones, grant ye to my soul to be with you. So Ani is speaking to what's it called, the Lord of Ra, saying, all the cakes that I given, all the cakes and ale I've given to you, grant my soul with the same blessings, that he may dwell amongst them, and may he dwell and have the same offerings made it to him. 151. Ani continues. This is a hymn of praise to Osiris, the dweller in Amatet, addressing, he says, O Lord, King of kings, Prince of the gods, gods who live with thee, I have come unto thee. Make thou for me a seat with those who are in the underworld, and who adore the images of thy Ka, and who are among those who endure for millions and millions of years. Why did I read that? I read that because I wanted to highlight in the show that this whole entire journey of Ani, or the deceased, is really to take the knowledge that the soul or the Ka took on this physical planet, bring it into the astral world, transform into snakes, Bennu birds, hawks, other animals. And what Ani is saying to the King of Kings is, now that my Ka is beautiful and shining like the rest of you, like the rest of the higher gods, may I dwell with you for millions and millions and millions of years. Meaning, Ani does not want to come back. Ani does not want to come back to this earth ever again. He's telling Osiris and the rest of the gods, and the great Lord of Lords. Let's talk about that. The great Lord of Lords, the one above Osiris. He's telling them, or the consciousness there, may I rest with you for millions and millions and millions of years. I thought that was very profound as I was reading this book. And it says, mayest thou grant unto the Ka of Osiris Ani, or Ani, the power to go into and come forth from the underworld. So, what is that saying? It's saying that Ani wants to be granted his soul or his Ka the freedom to come forth from the underworld when he chooses to do so. And this is the evolution of the soul. That's why I wanted to read it. The last part of this is the ending to where we see a shrine with the Lord of the Underworld. He wears the white crown of Egypt with the feathers, or with Ma'at, and he holds the scepter, frail and crook in his hands. And then we see the god Hathor right behind him. Now, I think there's probably some interpretation here, but at the end of it, we see the boat of millions of years, and this is the transformation that Ani is dwelling with the gods for the rest of his eternity. He has transformed himself into Horus, and now he's one of the shining ones. And that is the end of this interesting journey of Ani. Ani's journey, scroll number 11 is really my actualization of what I learned from this. I wrote this out, but I'm going to sum up what I wrote. Ani's adventures signals that the purpose of a soul is to evolve itself in a human incarnation, like I kept saying this episode. Like the book just said, when we live as our Ka, or our soul, intends when it first comes into a human body, we are evolving ourselves. But if we never take the opportunity to actualize and get to know why you are here, and you get distracted by the pleasure planet, as ancients called it, you never evolve. You have to come back as another, let's say, animal, another plant, a bird, to teach you a lesson that this is the pinnacle of creation. This body, this vessel, is the supreme being. This is where this comes from, guys. So, if you guys never heard that before, if you evolve into a human being or to a human, this is God's pinnacle of evolution. You know, there's insects, there's animals, there's plants. All of that stuff was created before man came along. And like I said before, guys, this is the pinnacle of creation. So if you, for lack of better words, waste your supreme vessel and you're only focused on that pleasure stuff, you're throwing away. You are not evolving. You are diminishing the soul's fire when you are not living as it wants to. And this is the exposition that I had as I read this book. I go to a cacao shop here in San Diego, and one time I was in the shop reading the Book of the Dead, and the attendant was just like, "Why are you reading that?" And then I didn't really have an answer for him at the time, but I have one now, and that is because reading Ani's journey, did I understand that I'm here for more than just what I just talked about? So that's the reason why we're talking about, this coming forth by day material, is because I wanted to share with you guys my actualization on how it impacted my life, how it is still impacting my life as I'm talking to you guys today. That this is all just more tools and knowledge to give to me that I'm gifting to all of you today to start changing your lives. Yes, it's still great to be a human sometimes, but you must get back to why you're here. And it's more than just what we just talked about. And by living a beautifully aligned life in joy and in balance, you have a great human experience, which is setting you up for the astral dimension. So once again, guys, this is how you come forth by day during a lifetime. You keep your actions fixed on God. You perform every karmic action with good intention behind it. Do you start to live a more balanced, evolved life? And when you live a balanced, evolved life, when you do go to the Hall of Ma'at, or the Holy Spirit's judgment hall, yeah, there's going to be some teetering for a while, but eventually, you know, the scale is going to balance, because you can't be too heavy against the heart. I mean, against the feather of truth, and then you can't be too light against it, meaning the humanity part of yourself comes into play. So this is where, like I said, guys, the scales, you must come back to how you came on this planet. This is the true adventure of the soul. That was on my show notes. But this is the adventure of the soul, guys, is we come here like this, and during our lifetimes, it may teeter. Sometimes the boss stays here because you're misled down the wrong road and believing that you're a person of hatred, envy, lust, division. You believe everything that man believes. This is how you guys stay heavy your whole entire life. And like I said before, guys, you will probably leave the body sooner than later. I'm not going to say how or why. That's not our concern. But you will exit this planet sooner than later. And if you guys live too light, a few things can happen. But, this is where the positive, toxic positivity comes into play, is that you can't be too far in the astral that you are missing the human experience. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's why you can't be too light against the feather, because now your your head or your heart is too far into that spiritual world, and you're forgetting about your humanness. But a balanced existence, guys, you have the spiritual, you have the physical, and it's balanced out. That is a true balanced dimension. That wasn't my show notes. I wasn't going to talk about that today. And I also wrote down the story of Jesus. It's a takeaway because it's actually a story of our divinity, his birth, his life, his death. When you read it, he goes through everything. I know in the Christian text, we know about Jesus' birth. We know about his childhood a little bit. But then from 13 to about 33, where the story picks up again, we know nothing about his life. But what we do know is during Jesus' childhood, he wakes up to his divinity, which signifies to all of us that we should be doing the same thing too. And when he remembered his father, like I believe he was talking with his father Joseph, he was just like, "Dad, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about my real father, my divine father." This is where the soul wakes up. Now, like I said before, guys, some of us wake up like Jesus did earlier on in our incarnations. Some of us wake up to it later. But what that story is talking about is, like I said, the waking up of your divinity. And what the Christian books leave out is when boys became a certain age in Judea at the time, 12 or 13, they started their adult lives. And what Jesus did was he started his adult life. He he found a caravan and he traveled on the Silk Road east towards India. Now, he had many adventures before he got to India, but once he got there to let's say the Tibetan area, he found a monastery. They taught him all these different things because they knew he was already a great teacher. They felt that in him. So they taught him all of their knowledge. And when he was done there at that monastery, then they said, "Go back to your people, back, back to Judea, where you came from, and teach them everything that we taught you." And the fun thing about on the way back from his monastery, traveling back west, I think there's a story of him in the Judea turning over the tables in some of the the temples and telling the priests to stop all this, stop selling stuff in God's house and stop the sacrificing. Jesus along the way did the same thing to many other religions. So it wasn't just the Judeans that he was targeting, but he was trying to wake people up to say, this is not the way. The way is through your own consciousness. The way is to evolution, to the source is love, kindness, and this is not showing any of that. You are being distracted by the religious dogma. This is not how my father wants us to live. So uh, that wasn't in my show notes. I just looked down. I wasn't there, but this is Jesus, the man, and this is also Jesus, the consciousness. So that's what I mean, guys. By his story, really does teach us that there's a duality. There's a yin and yang, and he's that yin and yang story in the Christian biblical text, in my opinion. And again, he evolved himself. He had a very tragic death. But what started after that was the evolved soul, to where he came forth by day uh, to show people on the planet that when you live a life, when you live out your destiny, do you evolve yourself into these higher realms and take on a more evolved existence, to like Ani just did in the Egyptian text, to where you can come forth by day anytime you want. And that's an evolved soul. And it taught, and I also want to say that this story helped me to be grateful for the vessel I do have. I think I mentioned this in the previous episodes. I grappled with being the identification of Al. But did I actualize that, this is just what I'm wearing, this incarnation? How it looks, how it sounds is really just a tool, a different frequency vessel. Let's just say that, a vessel suit, so I can function down here and live out my ka, myself, as it wants to live. And I'm doing it through this physical body of Al. Now, I want to explain what I meant by Al is dead is because once I started dissecting and going through what everyone told me Al was, that's what I mean by a death. Now, a death also means a being reborn, right, guys? This is the significance of being a snake. Once you shed away that old, let's say, skin, and you emerge into something more beautiful, this is how I've shifted myself into something more beautiful, because I had to take on a new identity. Yes, I still go by Al. That is the identity I wear. I cannot change it. I like this identity. But what I want to say too, guys, is I'm not of this identity. I no longer accept the downloading that was taught to me about how Al should live. I have redefined myself. And, this story has taught me the true meaning of redefinition of yourself, that your Ka has a certain destiny on this planet. If I never live it out, like doing this show, then I'll never be an evolved soul. And I'm trying to be like Ani. I'm trying to evolve out of this planet. So that's another thing that I'm grateful for, that I've evolved my soul. And what else do I want to say about this? Oh, yeah, I wrote this out. Yeah, I think I kind of talked about this, but we're going to talk about it a little deeper. You're probably wondering, Al, what is this all about? Why did you spend so many hours on Egypt and Ani? What's this all about, dude? And why are we talking about the underworld? And like I said, guys, your physical life directly impacts your afterlife. That's what I meant to say. Which means, like I said, the story of Jesus tells us this, what I just described in his human life. It set him up for his afterlife. And then Ani's story, when he's evolved himself from the grand trial and he goes into these different arits or different mansions, again, he is bringing his heart with him on these different adventures. And again, your physical life directly impacts your astral life. I can't say that enough, guys. without having to shake you guys awake. But guys, it's time to wake up, everyone. My beautiful people out there, guys, it's time to wake up. Evolve yourself out of these living in your bodies. Try to detach yourself from these physical identities of who you are or who you think you are. 9 times out of 10, it's not who you are. I had to discover that on my own, quietly. That, like I said, everything that was taught to me that I of Al how Al should live and how Al should act wasn't who I really was. And even along the way, I assumed different qualities and identities that didn't align with my own soul. But we had to quietly do that. Not get into what I did, but we've just shed away a lot of that owl programming. And like I said before, guys, the great trial, let's sum everything up. Once you pass the great trial, you live in the higher dimensions, like we talked about. You pass into different arites or mansions and portals and pylons. You meet these different gods. And if you don't pass those, if you don't pass the Great Hall of Ma'at or the Grand Trial, you're never going to meet the rest of these beings that we just talked about. You're just, like I said, Imit is going to devour your Ba, depending on where, if a meat exists. Like I said before, it's another metaphor for a portal, another pylon. Something will happen to your soul. Not sure what's going to happen, guys. We can kind of speculate. It could be a back down to earth. It could be a lower dimension, like I talked about. And Coming Forth by Day episode in the Egyptian series, where I talked about how I was shown this glitchy karmic dimension where souls just lived out their karma the whole entire existence until they were able to get another body. So that was a reality that was true. I'm going to tell you guys that. I'm not making this stuff up. I am not making this stuff up, guys. I actually did an astral project into a different dimension, and this can happen. This does happen, guys. I do know that part. So that's nothing to say about that. Let's see what else can I say about Ani's that I took from this was I'm mindful of my karmic actions now. The words I say to people, the actions I do to people. I have more of awareness of what I say. I'll say that because I know it's being recorded. I know it's being imprinted on my heart. It's being imprinted on my third eye. And what I'm saying is going out into the quantum field, meaning everyone can hear that frequency. So, like I said before, guys, if you're, like I said, cursing and wishing ill harm unto others, guys, all of that is being recorded and it's being stored in some tetrahedral dimension somewhere where there's millions and billions of you existing and somewhere just like in interstellar. But yeah, this is what has taught me to be more mindful of what I say and how I treat people. Yeah, that's all I say about that one. I'm just here to evolve my soul. That is what I'm here for. And I learned that, I must do things for the soul. I can't do things just for out of the physical body anymore. Yeah, I still do live as a human being, a human. I have more of awareness of what I'm doing. I'm just not, you know, doing what I used to do in the past. You guys ever knew me before. It's more of a mindful effort. If I do go out, I know why I'm going out. If I do go to a party, I know why I'm going to that party. If I'm going to a club or a concert, I know why I'm going to that concert. It's not just because everyone else is going because I want to go, or I desire to go, or my car desires to go. I'm going on cruises, vacations, going to work. That is all a choice. And I want to tell you guys that too. When you start to live as your true, authentic self, everything becomes a choice. Everything becomes a decision, a desire. You're just not, you're overriding the five senses. For instance, it's Friday, let's go drinking. Now I can say, you know what, I'm not feeling that today. Or, you see a hot guy, a hot girl at the gym or somewhere else, your body wants it, but then your cock can take over and say, you don't really want that. That's just lovely dirt, as they said in the Ten Commandments. So again, guys, you can just start overriding the senses. Or when you look at, or when, yeah, I can look at that really shiny croissant or brownie, but I can see the frequency is dead. And I can look at that fruit that's sitting over just probably a few feet away, that apple, orange, or grape, and I can say, I'm going to get more energy out of that than that donut ever could. So, again, guys, this is overriding the senses, and this is what this story gave to me when I was reading about it. And like I said in the middle of this episode, I cannot believe that, you know, I can now pretty much read the inscriptions when I look at the books of Egypt now because I know the gods, I know the symbols, I know what it's saying most of the time. I can read some of the inscriptions and I understand what it is. So when I do go to Egypt eventually, I can go to those temples and actually read it and not just stand there in awe to say, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. This is so beautiful. Yes, my human mind will say this is beautiful, but my astral mind will say, okay, it's time to read it. It's time to gain the knowledge and take away knowledge from this visit to Egypt. And I know when I do go to Egypt, it's going to be for at least probably a week, maybe two. I want to go to the new museum. That's going to take hours to get through. And I also learned that we are the dreamer of the dream. We are not only the controller in our physical form, but we are the controller in our spiritual form. What does that mean? We create everything. We created this existence. We created this dimension we live in. Every person has a different dream. And I think I mentioned this in my 1 year anniversary episode. There's 8 billion dreams happening simultaneously. And every individual person has a different dream. This is where the interpretation of different Bible verses come into play, is because what makes sense to you might not make sense to someone else, and then someone else down the line, someone else down the line. Like the minister that talks to you guys every Sunday or Saturday, they may say, "Oh, this is how I saw it." Now you can sit there and go along with it, or you can say, "You know what? That doesn't gel with me. I think I'm thinking it's this." And I want to say this too, guys. Nothing is wrong. None of this stuff is wrong. I want to say that too, guys. All the script, all the work, nothing is wrong with it. Like I said, our interpretations are just different because our cause are different, and every single cause having a different dream. Um, that's what I want to say about that. I'm gonna leave that alone. Not gonna get too much into it. We live a balanced life, like I just talked about. We're granted to evolve into the higher consciousness in the astral form, and we can return to incarnate as a human when we choose to appear. Let's just say that. Yeah, I did say that. The human vessel is the supreme vessel. It's the supreme creation in nature. Because the body does house, like I said, guys, all the aspects of an insect, a snake, a bird, fish in the oceans, whales. What else can I describe that is running around this planet? And you guys could think of this as the supreme creation. So, this is where people would say, "Oh, there's an animal inside you." That hopefully that explains to you guys that this flesh, I'm going to say this flesh is animal-like because it is of this terrestrial planet. But what is not of this terrestrial planet is your soul, your ka. It's not from this planet. And the best way I can describe it, how to tell that to you guys is, you guys ever watched like a documentary about astronauts? Let's say the moon missions. What the astronauts do? They they put on gloves, they put on a suit, and the best way I could think about that was we put on a suit before we come down here, because if we were down here in our regular form, we wouldn't exactly live. We wouldn't last much longer. We wouldn't last very long if we went to the moon. But this animalistic supreme suit gives us the sensory to live in flesh and bone. But like I said before, guys, being that this is of the same animal material that's existing on this planet, if we live as an animal, we're going to succumb to animalistic lives, which is what most people are doing this to this day. And there's a few of us, or a lot of us, there needs to be more of us, evolving ourselves above the senses and saying, I know what this is, I know what this suit is, and you evolve. You just you're just more aware of the senses. So like I said before, guys, this is all just a suit on top of us. If you guys saw me in the astral form, you'd probably be shocked. But I wouldn't be this person you're seeing in front of me today. But to talk to all of you guys you out there, I am in this physical body of Al. This is what I'm projecting off to you guys to show and talk in this life through flesh and bone. But once again, guys, this helped me to evolve myself. And like I said, I make the choice to do different things in this lifetime. I'm just not existing because or doing things because my body wants me to anymore. That is gone. I make a conscious choice to do things now in this life, which is what this book, reading this book has taught me. I want to say this to everyone. Some homework I want to give to you guys because, like I said, every dream is different. Like I just described to all of you, what I got from this book is I actualize that my actions do ripple through space, time, and dimensions. So I'm more conscious of what I do. My homework to all of you guys is, you heard my evolution part. I want to ask you guys, ask yourselves, how can I evolve after this episode? Ask yourself, can I face my false self? Meaning, can you literally flip the mirror around and look at your downloaded self and say, this is not my true identity, and let go of it? Can you go through everything that you ever learned about yourself and let it go? That's a homework question. And then also ask yourself, how will I change? Will I use this information to stop cussing people out? Will I use this information to stop hitting people? Will I use this knowledge to stop hating people? Meaning stopping the hate, division, and bigotry. Will that stop in your personality? Will I understand that I'm the co-creator of my life? Will I stop blaming others because I know it's coming from me? I'm creating the negativity. Those are examples of how you should start asking yourself these questions. How will I change after listening to this episode? And then also ask yourself, how will I realign my soul to the feather of truth? Meaning, like I just said, guys, how are you going to come back into balance? Now, like I said, it's okay if you're here. That's fine. There's still time to fix it, guys. What you don't want to do is you don't want to pass away with a heavy heart because you're never going to evolve. So I said, guys, there's still time to balance out the scales. And for those of you who are here, guys, start living and appreciating your human life because it's a gift. It really is a gift to live in these supreme creation bodies that our divine Father gave to us. Once again, guys, if you're living too much as a human, you got to come back online to your spirituality. If you're living too much in the spiritual realm, guys, you're not appreciating what you have. Come back into your humanism. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys on what we're really talking about here with balancing out the scales, is that you must have that duality of the spiritual connection and then the terrestrial connection. And when those two are balanced against each other, do they make a pure connection of coagulation? And you have a more spiritual evolved human experience, and you can take that into the astral world, just like what Ani did. He took his human experience into the afterlife with him, and he never let it go. He just took that experience, merged it to his astral ka, and he had an evolved experience to where he ended up with the shiny ones for eternity. And that is all I have to say about that, everyone. To close things out, I'm going to say this again. You should never, never doubt what nobody is sure about. Stay curious. Take your own adventurous journeys in this life. Be curious about yourself. Be curious about everyone. Be curious about everything. Think about those questions. Just to say this to you guys, this concludes the episode 25, Garden of Eden. And this explains what we're trying to come back to everyone. So I want to say thank you, everyone, for listening. Always stay curious about yourself. And I will come back with more information and have a beautiful day, everybody. I'll see you again on another Divine Lux Soul episode on my podcast. Thank you.